Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With a special edition of the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast, your WWE Saturday night's main event instant analysis. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and we are here just minutes after WWE Saturday night's main event went off the air for the first of 4 times in 2026 to break down all the results, give you our immediate thoughts on the show, grade the matches, and grade the program in its entirety. As we get started here on this bonus edition of Getting Over, allow the Silver King to remind you that this show
is all about Defy.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Go back to being marks for the Silver King Adam Silverstein, Vintage Chris Vanini, and the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast. Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Also, do not forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show, and around special events, premium live events, pay-per-views as well. You can vote in pre- and post-show polls. You give us your votes, and we dissect them as part of the final segment on these instant analysis podcasts. We give our grades. We talk about yours. That is how we wrap up our coverage of these special shows. Again, at Getting Overcast. When you subscribe on YouTube, you can listen to our episodes. You can watch full-length video interviews. Make sure you link up with us. Now, this is normally the time in these instant analysis where Silver King and Vintage would crack open a cold one, but I am in the middle of a work night right now, and Vintage, I don't think, has anything in his refrigerator coming back from a long trip. So we're going to put a pin in that. We're going to do it Saturday, late afternoon, early evening for the Royal Rumble. But we're coming off Saturday night's main event. That thing is still a week away. And Vintage, I got to tell you, as a minor spoiler alert, getting into this instant analysis, I was seriously entertained by this show on Saturday night.
Well, first thing I want to say, you need to acknowledge that while the rest of us are currently freezing, it's currently sleeting outside where I'm at in Texas. Ice is hitting the windows.
Yeah.
You're in balmy southern Florida, the only part of the country apparently that is not getting hit by any of this. I have not had the ability to go out to the store to get anything because I ain't leaving the house right now. So
yeah, I didn't necessarily.
Starting with that,
I didn't take that into consideration. I will tell you that looking at my Google Home that is sitting right here next to me, it is the evening and it is 75 degrees here. It makes no sense whatsoever. I was in Orlando this week. It was 42. I had jeans, a sweater. Like I was comfortable. It was beautiful out. That was 3 days ago. And now I'm back in South Florida and it's 75. It doesn't make any sense. This week it's supposed to hit in the 50s again. But like, what are we doing? I mean, this is crazy. And for those of you, Silver King, you're complaining. You don't live here, okay? Like, I want cold weather occasionally.
Stop it.
Do I want 7 degrees with sleet and snow where I can't leave the house? No, I don't. I'm not suggesting that. But do I want weeks where it's in the 30s and 40s, like for a couple months even? Yeah, I'd be totally fine with that. And
well, then you're going to have to move.
No, I'm aware. Well, you say that. Maybe I won't. Okay, we'll see what happens in 10 to 15 years, with global warming and everything.
Yeah.
The fact is, it's 75 right now on January 24th at night. And it's it was in the 80s today when I was out. I couldn't believe it. It was horrible.
It's currently 18 where I'm at. I'm in Texas, by the way.
Yeah, like I'm not saying I want 18, but I would take 38. I would take 48.
Yeah.
That's fine.
So yeah, that's the context around which I watched this, and Joe Tessitore watched it because he was not at the show because he was stuck at the airport.
Apparently stuck in Detroit.
With due to all of this weather. So like, it was a good show, and ultimately, really only kind of one important thing happened, which is kind of what we figured coming in.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I kind of feel like you're poo-pooing it a little bit because your expectation grade was so low. Like, this was a really entertaining Saturday night's main event. And we'll get to our final grades and our final thoughts at the end. But I don't know how many they've done in this new incarnation. Let's call it, I don't know, less than 20, right? But probably more than 10. this is definitely in the top quarter of them as far as I'm concerned. And it might even be higher than that.
I get like the shows themselves as a whole. I can't remember one. I can remember individual matches. I can remember Cody and Kevin Owens. I can remember John Cena's farewell, Goldberg's last match. But I these cards are so small that usually there's only one or two kind of like big things on them. So like, I guess, but it's really the main event to me. We'll get to it. To me, it wasn't a championship match. It was important, and maybe it'll be even more important in hindsight. But I thought it was like, I'm not going to give my grade away or anything like that.
Right? No, that's fair.
You coming in hot is interesting.
I'm pretty positive about the show. Here's the thing: at some point, when you have a 2-hour show like this, the goal is just to entertain. It is not a premium live event. It is not supposed to be the most monumental type of show, right? And I think what so many Saturday night's main events before this one failed to do was just give us clean matches with meaningful results that made the fans happy by the time they were over. The booking was odd. Things were shoved together. Matches happened just to move something on to the next week on television. And it was treated as something that WWE was doing to fulfill a contractual obligation and not something that it utilized significantly in part of its storytelling. This felt like the latter. And that to me is why it was enjoyable. Saturday night's main event does not need to have 4 championship matches. Just like it is not the equivalent of Clash of Champions back in the day what WCW did. What it does need to do is when it's over and my 2 hours are spent, I say that was not a waste of time. In fact, I'm glad I spent my 2 hours watching that. And that is how I felt Saturday night. And I have not felt that way many times before, to the point that I look back on some of the grades that we gave for Saturday night's main events. And I'm like, man, we graded those on a curve because this was more appropriately deserving of some of the grades we might have given to those. So let's not get ahead of ourselves too much. We already have. We'll talk about the show in its totality at the end of this program. 2 notes here before we get into the match-by-match breakdown. Stephanie McMahon opened the show as solo host because, as you mentioned, Tess was grounded in Detroit due to the snowstorms and stuff. I had just assumed Tess would not be on the show at all because he was leading Zuffa boxing coverage Friday night on Paramount Plus. I'm glad that was not the case, and they attempted to get him there. It's unfortunate he could not arrive, particularly because Stephanie, look, she can cut promos and do this and that. She's not a host. Not at all. This was a painful opening to the show. When they brought her back, it wasn't good either. No Jesse the Body Ventura. No Joe Tessitore. The accoutrement, for lack of a better term, around the wrestling lacked compared to what it usually is.
100%. And I thought Stephanie did fine, considering, she probably found out shortly before or day of that suddenly she was going to have to do this. And in that scenario, I thought she did fine. I was trying to think like who else you could even do it with. You'd probably just go to the commentary desk, I guess, is really the only other thing.
Byron Saxton, maybe someone like that. Yeah.
Like, unless I missed it, like no 1980s intro on this one, right?
I don't believe so. They were saying something about Saturday night's main event, but I don't recall. I had my head down because I was working at the same time the show was going. It was just very difficult timing for me.
Yeah.
So I didn't pick that up. The other thing, when it comes to the aesthetics of the show, look, nothing about Saturday night's main event is inherently American, but the red, white, and blue of it all does scream USA. In fact, this was only the second such show out of 43 editions of Saturday night's main event in history that was held in Canada. The only other was a random one in 2007. So there was just something like missing about the tonality of it, I guess, is a way to put it. That said, I loved the set. I thought the Titantron was awesome. The ropes were red, white, and blue. The commentary was great. Like I said, I enjoyed the show itself. It just didn't have the same feeling as some of those other shows.
I want that set to be the set for every show, for every Raw and SmackDown.
That could be a standard set for something. Not both shows. I'd like the sets to be a little bit different.
Sure.
But it should be a standard set for something that WWE does.
Give me the big Titantron. I like that one. The big wall. I don't know if they did that because less people. They'd been going smaller sets because you were fitting people behind but maybe they're not as much anymore. So whatever the reason, I thought it looked great. You've got the narrow entranceway, which is always great. I thought the general setup, I would take that 9 times out of 10 for everything. But yeah, there was no 1980s song. Like they did a video of like basically saying like we used to watch this in the 80s in the past all the way to today, and they showed this animated-ish graph of like kids watching a TV, and I think it was AI because the angle of the TV and where they're looking, it doesn't like line up. And I was looking for the telltale things like fingers or words in the background that didn't make sense. And there wasn't a ton to really be able to kind of identify, but it was very strange. And then they bring it into today, and then they just give you the hip hop music. And I was like, I don't want this for Saturday night's main event.
It's possible that because the show is no longer on NBC, they're tailing back some of the nostalgia aspects.
Yeah.
And they're just treating it as a special on Peacock, closer to a PLE. And by the way, since it has moved off NBC, the show is so much better because you don't have commercial breaks interrupting matches. It's basically a 4-segment show with commercial breaks in between everything, and that's okay. Like, that's acceptable. You know what I mean? For a show like this,
yeah, it's acceptable. It's not. Yeah, it's acceptable. I would rather.
But it's not. But it is not a PLE. So if it's not, and it's only 2 hours, and we know there are going to be commercials coming in, I can stomach that compared to a premium live event, which they're calling premium, which still has commercials through everything. And there are ways to get around that. We'll tell you about it later on this episode. Something, though, I want to tell you about now before we get into everything is that here at Getting Over,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well. For $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Please sign up and support us. buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. All right, Chris, let's get into the full breakdown of WWE Saturday night's main event, instant analysis style. We're going to go match by match. We're not only going to tell you what happened on Saturday, there was a ton of go-home from Friday night on SmackDown, and we need to talk about it now because if we don't, it's going to be old news come our next WWE episode on Tuesday. So like I said, we're going to go match by match. We'll tell you what happened Friday, Saturday. We'll give our takes. We'll give our grades. And at the end of the show, we will wrap it all up. So let's start with Cody Rhodes versus Jacob Fatu. Cody on SmackDown Friday night did what was promoted as an intense and nearly out of control sit-down interview with Michael Cole. Rhodes wanted to focus on regaining the WWE Championship, not how he lost it. When Cole interrupted the PR answer he was giving and pressed him about Fatu costing him the title, Rhodes was again trying to talk around all of it when Jacob interrupted, dressed like a blood from Los Angeles in the 1990s. Fatu said he came out fully locked on getting revenge on McIntyre for kicking his teeth down his throat, but Rhodes had to be the hero, which got him thinking. Cody said Jacob wasn't thinking, just like he wasn't thinking when he went to prison. Fatu went over going to jail twice, having 7 kids with no job, and nearly getting fired by WWE before he was even hired, saying he's fixed up his life and made choices that have made him a better man. Rhodes finally blamed Fatu for costing him the WWE title, so Jacob pointed out that Drew was going to win either way since he was almost out the door. Fatu said he's not like the other Samoans Rhodes has beaten. There's never been anyone like him, and he's not wild and crazy. He's completely in control. Later, when Cody walked into his tour bus, he was greeted by an 8x10 of Drew McIntyre on his door that read, quote, "The real American dream." This was so close to being exactly what I wanted from these guys. It was still appreciated, don't get me wrong. The first issue is that it was overproduced visually. It was too clean. There was no grit. It looked like Cody was wearing makeup. Then Jacob is out here maintaining that Drew was the one who attacked him. That continues to fly in the face of what McIntyre claims. And in fact, McIntyre said later on SmackDown. Aside from that, though, they nailed it. Cody went low, talking about Jacob's criminal past. Not very white meat babyface of him. I thought that was interesting. And he finally showed anger about how he lost the WWE title. That gave Fatu an opening to put himself over as a changed man. and tell his story while simultaneously pointing out that Drew may have won the match anyway, which is something I've been demanding that they say. The closing line from Jacob, I may be a Samoan, but you've never fought anyone like me before. That was perfect. Best of all, he didn't spam his stupid catchphrases, which stuck him in a tiny box. So this was ultimately a serious success. But yeah, just wish it was a bit tighter overall. Yeah, that I mean?
Yeah, it was a good reset for Jacob Fatu explaining who he is, because kind of in today's world, you got to remind everybody a million times who people are because people forget. So this was, all right, Jacob Fatu's back. Here's his backstory for people who didn't know or people who forgot. And off we go. And yeah, I thought the only thing that bothered me was the setting. Like you said, it was like, it almost looked like it was like a studio. It just was like jarring to kind of see it, but you got what you wanted out of these guys, and it was good.
Yeah, I think the whole reminding who they are thing, it can get really annoying. Let's not forget, this guy was out for months. So you're bringing him back. You're starting the year off. This is the biggest feud he's ever been involved in with Cody. I know he wrestled with Roman and stuff, but it wasn't one-on-one like this was. So it was kind of important for me for them to kind of set all that up. But as I said, what I really enjoyed about this, they didn't go all the way to where I wanted them to go. But they had Cody showing anger, which he didn't in the weeks immediately losing the title. They referenced the fact that McIntyre was basically on his way out of the cage anyway. That was all important. I just wish they did it a little bit closer to him actually winning the championship. So Cody and Jacob opened the show. Fatu cut a walk-in talk promo saying he went from EBT to WWE, which is a fire-ass line. And he also entered shirtless, showing off how much work he actually did while out of action. He looked amazing, like a guy who was told, guess what, when you come back, you're about to get a main event run. Jacob actually attacked Cody during his second set of pyro while he was on the top rope. That led to Rhodes accidentally leveling Charles Robinson and the two brawling without the bell ever ringing. Fatu did an impressive double jump, springboard, turnaround cannonball to the ringside area. Unfortunately, he landed directly on two security guards and completely missed Cody, who then attacked him down the ramp for a full-on brawl into the crowd and up into the concourse. Security took a hysterical amount of shrapnel from them, punches, recycle bins to the head, a uranagi into a merchandise table. They even teamed up briefly to defenestrate a guy off a barricade into a pile of other security. Just then, randomly out of nowhere, McIntyre threw Fatu off a metal box and through a table. Then he low-blowed Rhodes and powerbombed him off the same box through another table. McIntyre then celebrated in the ring, and then later backstage, he said that his attack was a statement to the entire roster. Basically, you can't F with me. A legitimate match with a clean finish obviously would have been preferable. But we sniffed this out in our ultimate preview. It made perfect sense to book this segment this way. The only difference is we expected a double DQ or a no contest rather than the match never starting, but it was the same effect given there was no stipulation set for a battle in which two guys were out for blood and probably should have been in a stipulation match. I'd personally have booked the ending by having Rhodes and Fatu take each other out simultaneously through those tables, and it would have been nice if the brawl was a little bit more violent, but the segment was solid overall. The crowd was super engaged and hyped for everything that happened, despite the circumstances. The lack of violence was made up for with spectacle using the officials, and it got enough time where it lasted the length of a match and the crowd was not screwed over by the bell not ringing. It was a crazy start to the show. It simultaneously protected both guys. I thought they kind of nailed this.
I just don't understand. Just start the match and have it devolve into this, and they both get, and it gets thrown out. To not even start the match, to me, is kind of insulting. When you're going to do all of that anyway, you know, it's just like, it maybe doesn't really matter, but it just really bothered me because it took me a long time to get into what they were doing. Because immediately I was like, well, this doesn't matter. I'm just going to sit here for 5 minutes while they brawl and that's it. And it went a lot longer than I thought. And Drew showed up. Okay, like, all right, like you gave me something, but why not just do a match? Why not start a match? They start brawling out into the crowd. They get counted out. The ref throws it out, something, and then just continue what you're doing. I don't understand why they had to do it like that. That annoyed me. But
if I can answer, I found it to be irrelevant in that regard. Like,
It might be,
So
but
you
I was
start
just so
you start the
I was
match.
just so I was just so offended that the very first match of the card doesn't even start.
So don't forget, I don't exactly remember the show. It was a show in Europe, but it was a tag team match with Randy Orton, I think, and Kevin Owens against the Bloodline, the new Bloodline. I want to believe a tag team match, maybe for the titles. And that's how it started. The bell never rang. And Nick Aldis, I believe, came out and said, screw this, we're going to do a street fight or whatever happened, right? And the crowd went absolutely wild for it. Now, a match happened on the back end of that. It's a different situation. But it started the show super hot as opposed to the bell ringing and they start fighting and then the bell rings again for a double DQ and then the brawl happens and the fans are booing because they're really upset about it. This kind of didn't give them a chance to get upset. At first, it was like, oh, is this match ever going to start? But then once the brawl continued, they were going apeshit for it. So I actually thought it was irrelevant which direction they went. But if you want me to make an argument, a devil's advocate argument otherwise, it's that it protected the booing and allowed these guys to just go after each other. And it also made sense. They took out the scheduled referee and they were never in the ring together for long enough separated where the bell could have rung. So that, to me, it worked.
That's a good way to explain it and why they did it and why you could even say it worked for what they wanted. I just personally hate that.
That's fair.
I hate not starting a match, especially the first one. And it's like, did we even need to book this then? I was just annoyed by that. But they put in the work on the back end to make it do something, but you could have done this at literally any time. It didn't need to be a booked match on what was a 3-match card until the day before and then became a 3-match card.
But it was a 3-match card. You're right. But they fought the length of a match.
Yeah, I know. That's why I was. That's partly
it's
why
not.
I was
it's not
annoyed.
boxing or MMA where if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. This still happened.
But that's what I'm also saying. Like, if you're going to put in all that work, you might as well have made it a match.
Yeah, I don't know. At that point, to me, it's kind of 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. I think we got what we wanted and what we expected, which was these guys tearing each other apart, and the spectacle of them throwing dudes around like they were nothing was kind of cool. I mean, that's kind of the way I look at it.
I also like that Drew got to look strong and all that stuff.
That too. He's so tall.
Cole said early on, when they were going into the crowd, Cole's like, "We haven't seen Cody like this in a long time." It's like, yes, we did. He just went to Drew McIntyre's house around Christmas.
Yeah, not only that,
Cody's been on edge for a long time.
He literally got into a war with Kevin Owens exactly 1 year ago.
Yeah.
At this show, the Saturday Night's Main Event, the equivalent, and then at the Royal Rumble, right? That sounds right to me. Something like that.
It was a different Saturday Night's Main Event, but yes. Yeah. Cody.
I thought it was the January. It wasn't the January one?
No, the January one was the Jey Uso Gunther one.
Oh, okay. Right.
It was the previous fall, the very first Saturday Night's Main Event that they brought back, which was actually a really good one. So, ultimately, I do wonder, is all of this Cody stuff going to become something more?
Right? I mean,
he is saying things that aren't white meat babyface to chicken fat.
He's acting like an asshole. He is.
He is losing his edge.
Absolutely.
Losing his temper time and time and time again. Are we just supposed to be like, yeah, Cody, or is that going to become something?
Well, what really annoyed me is when he got, I forgot what happened. Oh, Jacob was injured. And he had the oral injury and they weren't able to do the scheduled match on SmackDown that was planned for the title. So he decided to give Drew a title match and then hit him with the WWE Championship. That was Cody losing his cool. And then it was never explained. It's I'm allowed to do that. If the heels do it to me, why can't I do it to them? It's because you're a babyface, bro. That's why you can't do it. So this now, fast forwarding about 5 months, is him continuously losing his cool, acting like an ass, and doing things that a white meat babyface would not do. Whether that is just giving edge to his character, thumbs up. Whether it's actually changing his character into something else, possibly thumbs up as well. We're just going to have to see the way it transpires. I have one other item to discuss on this, but first I want to ask you. So, SmackDown, McIntyre, unprompted, puts an 8x10 of himself on Cody's tour bus, on the window of the tour bus. And then here, unprompted, interferes in this match, takes both these guys out. He's the champion. They're fighting each other and kind of are removed from him. Shouldn't he be leaving well enough alone?
I was wondering about that. Yes, but also like he has nothing else to really do otherwise. And maybe the whole idea is that like he's so obsessed with all of this stuff that even winning the title doesn't make him happy enough. He has to keep,
Flexing on him, kind of.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll buy that. Now, given the booked finish here, and remember, this was first on Saturday night's main event before the Fatal 4-Way that would follow. As soon as this was over, I no longer believed we were getting the Drew McIntyre Sami Zayn match at WrestleMania like I wanted. Instead, I believed it was going to become a 4-way with Rhodes and Fatu also involved. Otherwise, why would you have Drew interfere in a situation where two guys he hates are beating the shit out of each other, knowing that Sami is already waiting in the wings? To me, that said, both of these guys are going to be involved in WrestleMania. Drew will, fingers crossed, be champion going into the show. And the Sami of it all, not knowing what was going to happen in the number one contendership, I figured he could win the Royal Rumble. He could win the number one contendership. A million different things could happen. I put it all together and I said, 4-way at WrestleMania. Do you think, after this match, did you think, I should say, that was the direction they were going? Was there something else in your head?
I didn't know what to think. I said the fact that Drew is still here means I don't know what's going to happen. I didn't really I thought it could be something different, but I was just like, I don't really know.
Okay.
And so, yeah.
So let's move to the main event of the show. Randy Orton, Trick Williams, Damian Priest, and Sami Zayn in a number one contendership for the WWE Championship title opportunity at the Royal Rumble. Again, before we get to Saturday night, we're going to talk Friday night. Sami opened SmackDown with Cole correctly, noting that he grew up 7 miles from downtown Montreal. He was back to his schlubby look, which was disappointing, but at least the beard was groomed. Immense ovation and chants. Of course, Trick interrupted just as Sami was talking about having momentum going into the match, saying they couldn't be any more different in their personalities or careers. Charismatic as usual, Trick was. Zayn agreed that they're not on the same level, saying he's the best of the best, while Trick has the potential to be half as good as him. Then Priest came out saying Williams talks shit to others, but is clearly afraid of him. So Trick feigned like he would attack him, but actually hit Sami with the mic, leading to a brief 3-way cluster. Orton watched this from backstage, cut a passionate promo afterward about winning the number one contendership. Zayn, being the hometown favorite, carried the segment. None of these guys were at their respective best. Priest was slightly better than he had been the last few weeks. The fault was not so much on the wrestlers, but how it was structured. Sami and Trick, they were doing well enough. Damian joining them was completely unnecessary. It was perfectly fine.
Yeah, it was fine. I didn't think Priest was great either. It felt like he had to remember a complicated thing he had to say, but yeah,
that's how it feels whenever he speaks, if we're being completely honest.
Yeah.
So Trick had a brief confrontation with Rey Fenix backstage prior to the bout, basically just showing their feud's not over. Sami backstage started explaining to Damian how and why he would be paying attention to his match and potentially getting involved. Priest cut him off, saying Zayn has a habit of being where he doesn't belong, and it got surprisingly heated between them. Sami then cut off their conversation when he saw Drew McIntyre looking around the corner. This came after a promo from McIntyre in which he tore down all 4 of the competitors, but particularly Zayn, even mentioning his son earlier in the show. We will go deeper into that promo on Tuesday. Sami confronted Drew, and he simply smacked the shit out of him.
What is the 5 fingers say to the face? Slap!
That made me hope that McIntyre would interfere Saturday, Claymore Zayn, prevent him from becoming number one contender, thus putting Sami in position to win the Royal Rumble and grow a feud between them for WrestleMania, just like I had been predicting for the prior 6 to 9 months. That's how I felt, Chris, after that segment.
Yes, that sent me back on the before the
Right.
Sami Drew situation where it's like, all right, like these guys have to fight each other at some point. They're clearly going back to it, leaning into it. Drew has said all these things. At some point, Sami is going to fight Drew.
But it seemed like McIntyre would need retribution specifically for that. He got smacked across the face, right?
Right.
Okay, I just want everyone to know that, make it clear that we agree before we move on a little bit. So Priest and Williams fought. This main evented SmackDown.
Oh, we got 2 big meaty men bumping me tonight.
Sami came out like 2 minutes into the match as Trick threw Damian into the steel steps. Williams later hit a leg lariat and bookend, only to take a flatliner. Trick caught Damian running ringside with a flapjack into the announce table. Then he purposefully threw him into Sami, who banged him into the barricade. That led to Zayn attacking Williams for a DQ, with Priest taking the L. Damian took issue with that, so it became a brief 3-way brawl. Trick shot took out DP. Trick thought he was standing tall, except an RKO from Orton to Williams and another to Zayn after he talked back to Randy. ended the program. I did find myself wondering why Orton was basically absent all show, so it made sense that he showed up at the end. This really struggled to inspire. Priest and Williams were lumbering around. Zayn coming out led you to basically push aside the rest of the match because you know it wouldn't mean anything until he got involved. I said last week that booking this as a go-home was a bad idea. I felt justified in that take coming out of the show. This did kind of confirm that it was going to be Orton or Zayn winning the four-way, which is what you and I both surmised over the prior couple weeks.
Yeah, I was not looking. I didn't watch SmackDown Live. I watched it earlier Saturday, and I was like, I can just fast forward through most of this match until we get to the end.
Well, let's get to the four-way from Saturday night's main event. And it did main event. The crowd was absolutely wild for Sammy. Trick got a lot of work early. His offense, largely being leg-based, continues not to make a shred of sense. Zayn got caught on the ropes with Priest, but he smartly hit a tornado DDT from the second rope to make the best out of it. Orton got his run next, hitting 2 power slams and a draping DDT before Zayn took him out of a second attempt with a blue thunderbomb. Williams intercepted a haluva kick with a leg lariat, then took out Priest ringside with a bookend into the top of the barricade. Zayn took him out with a tope con hero, reversed Orton's backdrop into the announce table, and nailed Priest with an exploder suplex plus a haluva kick, only for Trick to pull the referee out of the ring. Orton backdropped Williams into the announce table thrice before doing the same once each to Zayn and Priest. That shit must have been reinforced because there were 6 backdrops and the table did not break. Sammy dodged Randy into the ring post, avoided an RKO only to take one as a counter to a haluva kick, leading to a failed Trick steal of the cover and Damian breaking the fall. Orton soon caught both of them with a double draping DDT. Priest got booed, hitting Orton with South of Heaven before kicking out of a crucifix attempt by Williams. Damian then ate Trick kick, only to take an exploder, but Sammy missed haluva kick and sold a knee. Priest took Zayn off the ropes with Razor's Edge, only to start messing with Williams and get caught with haluva kick for the 1-2-3, with Sammy becoming the number 1 contender heading to the Royal Rumble to fight McIntyre. Drew tried attacking after the bell, only to get thrown out of the ring as Sammy continued celebrating. The fans absolutely loved the finish because Zayn is their guy. For me, it was a huge letdown for a couple reasons. First of all, personal taste. I didn't want this. Second of all, if McIntyre interfered in the opening match Saturday and got smacked across the face without retaliating against Zayn on Friday, why in the blue hell would he not actively get involved and prevent this guy from becoming number 1 contender on the exact same show? Why would he be waiting until after the match was over? A no DQ match, by the way, because it's a fatal 4-way. Why would he wait until after it's over to come out and attack? That does not make a shred of sense to me. None whatsoever. I'll come back to that after we wrap up about the match itself. Besides the booking and finish annoying me, the 4 guys worked extremely hard. Trick and Damian both did better than they did Friday. Their size coupled with Orton's age did lead to a slower paced match. There were some nice fake outs and false finishes. Outside of Randy being mysteriously missing in the end, the win for Sammy was done well, at least within the confines of the match and the story. 4 stars A-, but yeah, the creative here and the lacking logic around McIntyre really frustrated me.
Yeah, like there was also a spot where the first time that Sammy hit, I think it was Trick on a haluva kick, and he goes for the pin, and like before we even get to 2, Cole's like, Sammy's won it, Sammy's done it, and I hate that. And I mentioned this in our Slack channel for subscribers. I'm just so conditioned over the years to when the announcer says that, especially Cole, it's not going to be a pin. And that was the one that kind of, I think, was the crowd was ready for it more than they were, I think, the second time around, in terms of kind of where the crowd was. Like, the guys worked hard. Match was fine. Sammy winning, like, okay. Like, I'm not going to hate it until I see where it goes, because clearly, we're in a Mania season now. Mm-hmm. We'll see where this goes. I wasn't sure if they would do it, but in hindsight, it kind of makes sense to put Sammy into such big spots, title matches, number 1 contenders in Montreal, in Saudi Arabia next week. Maybe just they felt the crowd wouldn't cheer Randy Orton if he won because they wanted Sammy. We'll see what the booking is. I'm not going to poo-poo it really too much because we either said it was going to be Drew or Sammy. I'm sorry, it was going to be Randy or Sammy. Mm-hmm. And if Randy won, we know he's not winning the title at the Rumble. So now I've got more intrigue in this match. going into the Royal Rumble. So I think that's ultimately good. But yes, making Drew McIntyre do that didn't quite make sense. I don't even know if he really needed to come out since he already did come out, but you want to give Sammy another thing to kind of stand tall on, preview their next match week. It was fine. It worked out. I didn't hate it as much as you did.
Well, that's the thing. Sammy winning wasn't to my taste because I believe there were better options. But just because I don't like something doesn't mean it's bad, right? That's not how we operate on this show. What my issue is the logic behind having McIntyre come out and interfere in the earlier match and not having him cost Zayn the number one contendership. I'll repeat it for a third time. A guy who smacked him across the face 24 hours earlier and disrespected him, and he didn't get back at him. And then he doesn't just not cost him the number one contendership, which he should have. He runs out after the match is over. So he was waiting. Why would you wait for him to become number one contender to attack him when you can prevent him from ever fighting you in the first place?
Well, how's this for a reason? Sammy has never beaten Drew, I think they said, right?
He's 0-11 against McIntyre.
Yeah. So theoretically, you would want Sammy to win because you know you can beat him and he's not going to be much of a competition. That now him interfering on behalf of Sammy wouldn't have exactly worked. That
right.
Might have been maybe a bridge too far, but I think you can understand why Drew one way or another didn't necessarily interfere and that he was just going to beat up whoever won because they fight in a week and he'd love to injure the guy and going into their match a week.
I mean, look, if he comes out Friday and says, Sammy, I could have cost you that number one contendership, but you know what? I'm glad you won because I've beaten you 11 times and it's going to be 12 at the Royal Rumble. If he says that, it'll be more logical and I'll take it. But again, based on the circumstances, I found it to be a huge plot hole.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's just how I feel. Now, as I said a moment ago, we don't do the whole, it wasn't booked the way I wanted it to be, therefore it's bad shit on the show. We don't do that. We do demand logic. The logical booking was this. McIntyre interferes, costs Zayn the number one contendership because for all the reasons I just mentioned. And then Zayn goes on to win the Royal Rumble. And that sets up either the one-on-one match I believed was happening for 6 to 9 months already, or, again, based on Saturday night's results, a 4-way with Cody and Jacob. You have Cody, who got screwed out of the title, Drew, who's the champion, Jacob, who is inherently involved with them, and then Sammy, who is the number one contendership, earned that opportunity from the Royal Rumble. Now, when it comes to the Royal Rumble, and of course we will do a full Ultimate preview on Tuesday, I suppose Sammy can lose to Drew, win the Royal Rumble, and we get right back to the same spot. But I don't know why you would have him, to your point, take a 12th loss to this guy unnecessarily. The other options are Zayn loses and that's it. He's not involved in the WrestleMania match. Or Zayn beats McIntyre, which then makes Drew a transitional champion with a less than 1 month title reign. I would blow my stack if that happens. Plus, if you're doing a whole I will win the world championship this year story, why are you speed running it in the first month of the year? So like I said, we'll give our official predictions and picks in the Royal Rumble Ultimate Preview on Tuesday. But Chris, it's difficult for me to understand how WWE did not see the obvious booking right in front of them. I hope I'm proven wrong and that this is even better than what I was originally suggesting. But having him win this number one contendership and get a singles match at the Royal Rumble when he could have won the Royal Rumble itself and gotten his match at WrestleMania, I fail to see how that is going to be better.
Here's what you do. You have Sammy and Drew next week, and you have Cody and or Jacob interfere in it. And it becomes a mess.
For what reason?
Because Drew attacked them tonight. And they get back at him.
Actively interfere in a WWE championship match?
Yes.
And then all three of them, and then all three of them are number one contenders 2.5 months out for WrestleMania, but none of them earn it in the Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber. I'm okay with that. Don't get me wrong. I'm clarifying what you're saying.
Right. I'm just saying like that could be a way to, if you want someone bigger to win the Royal Rumble, a bigger name, you don't need Cody winning it again. If it's not going to be Sammy, Jacob's not going to win it. If you're going to do multi-man, you can't have the Rumble involved, basically. Or maybe you do a four-way.
You can. They've done it
at Elimination Chamber.
They've done it where maybe that person chooses, like they've done it where, let's just make believe it was Sammy, where Drew, Jacob, and Cody are set for a match, and Sammy's like, that's the title I want. You're the guy I want to beat. So he makes a triple threat, a four-way. They've done that before. But something we've talked about on this show, and I'll end on this, is that it's ridiculous how there's 4 main titles that WWE defends at WrestleMania, the 2 men's and the 2 women's. And there's 2 Royal Rumble matches and 2 Elimination Chamber matches, and all 4 of them are for number 1 contenderships. So unlike past WWE, where a Royal Rumble would get a number 1 contendership, and then the other challenger could happen in a variety of ways, WWE has gone away from the storytelling, and they've just said, well, if you have to win one of these matches in order to get a title shot. It would be great if the Royal Rumble winner was a number 1 contender for the men, and then the Elimination Chamber match for the men this year was the World Heavyweight Championship on the line. CM Punk in the match with multiple other people. That to me would be super interesting, and it would allow this SmackDown story to generate a 4-way without necessitating the Royal Rumble or Elimination Chamber. So fingers crossed. That's what's happening. It sounds good to me, Chris.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what's going to happen next week, and that's okay. I'm interested. And I won't criticize it too far until I don't like it.
Yeah.
But so far, I don't not like it.
I agree with that. The only real criticism here is the lacking logic of McIntyre.
It's hilarious that we started the show with you being so high on the show, and so far I've been more positive, I think, than you have.
I don't think I've necessarily been negative in any way. I'm just frustrated that illogical thing happened. I still thought the match was incredible. Not incredible, excuse me. I thought the match was very good.
I think the logic so far is perfectly explainable, as I've tried to do. Now, it may not continue that way, but I think it's fair so far.
Okay. I'm glad that you're okay with it, and I'm an outlier because it perhaps means that others weren't as bothered by it as I was. But that whole deal of McIntyre not costing guy who smacked them across the face 24 hours earlier, that I struggled to understand that. But look, the cool thing about Saturday night's main event was I watched it commercial free. I don't think you did, Vintage, and you probably should get you on that tip. The other thing that's cool is when the Royal Rumble comes up, I'm going to be watching that commercial free as well. You know why? Because Silver King is all in with NordVPN. It's easy to set up. It's a drastically better viewing experience each night. You get the same high quality streams, except they become commercial free shows. This is for Saturday night's main event on YouTube, for WWE Premium Live events on Netflix. Same thing for Raw, SmackDown, and NXT. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover. Open the app, quick connect to another country like the United Kingdom, open Netflix, and watch the program of your choice. It's going to be crucial for next weekend with the Royal Rumble, especially for those of you with Comcast or YouTube TV. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship and surveillance and protect your private data. Plus, one account gets you access on 10 different devices. To get the best discount, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan, and there's no risk because Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save some damn money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. We love having NordVPN as our official singular sponsor of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. 2 more matches from Saturday night's main event, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. You may say, Silver King, where the hell did that come from? Well, we're going to tell you because this got added on SmackDown. Nick Aldis on social media invited Styles to the show for a conversation. As Styles was meeting with him, R-Truth interrupted with his balls, wanting to be in the Royal Rumble. Aldis asked Styles if he was sure about his decision. AJ reiterated that he was angry at the disrespect Gunther showed John Cena, and while Cena went out on his shield, Styles was not going to let Gunther determine the end of his career. Aldis then brought in Nakamura, who similarly asked Styles why he's willing to lose everything. Styles said, if he didn't step up to Gunther, then he's already lost. So Shinsuke suggested they fight. That way AJ could prove that he was capable of maintaining his career next week. Cody later caught up with AJ, but did not try to dissuade him. He just wished him luck. The segment was a bit repetitive in terms of the tone, but it was obviously successful toward its goal. First meeting between them in 5 years, which is kind of crazy. It told us that Styles is either legitimately retiring at the Royal Rumble, at least from the company, or WWE is doing a phenomenal job swerving us into believing that is happening, given this booking. Otherwise, why would you run this match in this spot on such short notice?
One of the reasons is because Cody Jacob wasn't a match, and you knew you were going to have something on. And if you are speed running AJ into retirement, maybe let's get him another match in there or 2. That was my thought.
And that's a perfectly fair thought, but I am curious in terms of your perception of what I just said, that this was either booked because it's a prelude directly into his retirement, or WWE is kicking ass with this swerve.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I don't know. So again, I wasn't like excited when they announced this match because I was like, I understand the you know,
it doesn't mean as much to you as it does others.
In the prestige and all that stuff. I don't have that long of a history. I don't have a history with Nakamura before he got into WWE.
Mm-hmm.
You and I were both there for the 2018 WrestleMania match that ended with a dick kick. I wasn't dying to see it again just because I didn't think it'd be amazing, but I was like, we needed a fourth match on this card because we were already upset about it being 3 going in. So I was like, all right, that makes sense.
All right. Well, commentary was decently heavy on the possible retirement talk before the match, even saying that Styles talked about retiring in 2026. Not necessarily at the Royal Rumble. Styles entered with red highlighted gear and a Japanese mask. Nakamura got another incredible reaction for someone who's barely utilized. Fun callback early with Styles shooting a gun at Nakamura, who caught the bullet and put it to his heart. People were giving WWE a lot of crap about the camera work here. Folks, it was done on purpose. There's gun stuff happening in the United States, and we're not going to get into everything here on the show. But they were not about to show that live on television, yet they still wanted to give Styles and Nakamura the opportunity to tell their story from New Japan. They cut away on purpose. It was still successful. You knew exactly what he was doing. Okay? That's the point.
Good point.
Okay? Anyway, plenty of signatures both ways from these guys. Shin countered a Styles clash with a second effort scorpion kick, hit a flying knee for a flat 2 count. AJ thought the referee's knee hitting was the first slam, so he lifted his arm right before 2 instead of right before 3.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
Styles avoided Kinshasa, hit a dragon screw, rolling into an extended calf crusher that had Nakamura screaming in pain. Shin transitioned out into an armbar. AJ tried to lift him out of that into a Styles clash, but failed. When Nakamura ran at him, Styles sent his ass to the canvas with a Takayama knee to the chin. Hell of a spot. Nakamura ended a strike sequence with Kinshasa to the back of the neck, but was similarly unable to cover. When he tried another Kinshasa, his plant leg completely gave out. That allowed Styles to drill him with his own move for a rope break false finish. AJ prevented the sliding powerbomb, landed another knee to Shin's jaw, but Nakamura caught phenomenal forearm on the ropes for a Michinoku driver false finish. Similar spot happened in their classic New Japan match, by the way. Speaking of classic New Japan, they had an extended sequence of strike trades in the middle of the ring before Shin grabbed AJ's arm for a slightly awkward armbar. Styles then straight blocked Kinshasa cold, but Nakamura rolled through Styles' clash, hit a short-range Kinshasa, unable to cover. When he tried once more, Styles avoided Shin into the corner, pulled his knee down over the top rope, and hit phenomenal forearm plus a Styles clash, which was his finisher in Japan, for the victory. They fist bumped after the bell just like they did in Japan, and then they celebrated together in the ring. This was phenomenal. It's what their WrestleMania 34 match should have been. It took 8 years for us to get the Styles Nakamura bout that should have happened in 2018. But you know what they say? Better late than never. If this exact match had been run 8 years ago when they were younger and more spry and could do a little bit more, you're looking at a 5-star match. As it stands, there were some slow parts, and there were a couple minor flubs, seemingly due to exhaustion. The knee and calf work to set up the Gunther match played a role in slowing this down, but that was important storytelling, and it was appreciated. Look, these guys are combined 93 years old, and they put on one of the best matches of the year to this point. Anything else is admittedly nitpicking. If this was Styles' penultimate match in WWE, well, he completely delivered. If it was not, at least he and Nakamura were given the opportunity to go out there with plenty of time. They got 22 minutes, and they worked in front of a hot wrestling crowd, atoning for the shitty low blow booking of their prior feud when Styles was WWE champion. This was Shinsuke's best match in forever. Styles went all out here. You could tell the match meant a lot to both of them, and it meant a lot to a subsection of fans, yours truly included. 4.5 stars A. Excellent stuff. And I'm telling you, when I'm less distracted and I rewatch this, there's a chance it hits A+ territory with a 4.75. This was awesome.
Yeah, really good. Way better than I thought it was going to be. I was into it. They told the story. It felt like a really good farewell for both of them, and partly because you gave them time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like that's just very often when WWE lets a match go long with guys who know how to wrestle, it very rarely underdelivers. Like you got to give them the space to do it, and they did it, and it was great. And well done, very well done.
Women's Tag Team Championship. Io Sky and Rhea Ripley defending against Liv Morgan and Roxanne Perez. This was second on the card. Ripley got the hot tag against Morgan, which was particularly sweet for her. Roxanne flipped Rhea halfway across the ring with a Hurricanrana off the ropes, but as soon as Ripley landed, Liv caught her immediately with a code breaker to complete a great sequence. The champions rebounded with a razor's edge and missile dropkick for a broken fall before Perez took out Ripley with an around the world and an excellent handstand sell from Rhea. Io hit a springboard missile dropkick on Roxy before Morgan wound up countering Sky with a really interesting La Magistral style crucifix bomb. Perez then countered over the moonsault with double boots, adding pop rocks for what should have been a 1-2-3 because the setup was a broken fall and Ripley was nowhere near breaking it up. She was a full second late. Instead, the referee pulled up his arm and fans appropriately booed. Ripley hit Perez with a headbutt and riptide, Sky following with over the moonsault. But as the referee was counting the fall, Raquel Rodriguez pulled Rhea down and her body landed on the ref, which stopped the count. That is so freaking unique. I do not believe I have ever seen that before. Raquel then threw Rhea into the barricade and caught Io flying at her with a ringside powerbomb. Stephanie Vaquer ran down for the save, no boot on her ankle. She splashed Rodriguez off the barricade into the crowd. And after this happened, Roxy draped an arm over Io for a 2.9. Liv looked to win the match. She believed she was the freshest competitor. She chased Io into the ropes, hit Oblivion, but Rhea had tagged in blind by slapping Io's ass. She subsequently hit Riptide on Liv to retain the titles and did her straddle cover so deep that Liv's ankles were not only above her head, they were touching the effing canvas.
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
All right, you know what that means. Before we talk about the match, we have a Hey Now championship battle between this and Roxanne Perez and Liv Morgan on Raw a couple weeks ago. Look, Chris, this cover was immensely impressive. There's no doubt about it.
I was up all night.
But for me, this does not eclipse what Liv and Roxy did a couple weeks ago. So for me, I still have them holding the title.
I would like to throw in and make this a triple threat match as well because of, like you said, there was not only tagging in Io by, hitting her butt. When these two entered, Io and Rhea, when they're on the side of the ropes there, Io was like brushing Rhea's face with her hand, and like Rhea's got her tongue out, and I'm like, Jesus Christ!
It is coded, man.
So you're saying I'm gonna stick with you.
Okay,
we're not gonna change the title right away.
No,
keep it with Liv and Roxanne for right now. But I just wanted. Io and Rhea also got in there as a contender.
And by the way, there needs to be mutual agreement between us in order for the title to change, just so everyone is aware. Also, This is the second defense, because you might have missed it, but Chris, later on the Friday show, Blake Monroe was a contender for the Hey Now Championship. She fell as well. So Liv and Roxy, two successful defenses, but something happened on SmackDown, and technically it preceded this. We're not going to be able to talk about it until Tuesday. There will be a third defense of the Hey Now Championship inside of about 1 week. And that's a little teaser for Tuesday's show. Back to discussing this match seriously. This was awesome. And you could tell that all 6 of the women involved had a ton of fun here. Their passion for what they were doing, it radiated not just in the arena, but through the screen. There were perhaps bigger matches on this show. I'm not sure the crowd was more consistently and thoroughly hyped and entertained by any of them. They were completely bought in here. It makes me laugh that Priest is the one who honors Razor Ramon, yet Ripley's Razor's Edge is 1,000,000 times better by comparison. Rodriguez absolutely murked Io with that ringside powerbomb. She legitimately feels like a main eventer. This was borderline 4 stars A-, 4.25 stars A, probably the former due to the botch on the broken cover. But this did so much for the division, and it probably set the stage for the Women's World Championship match at WrestleMania. If you perhaps read between some of these lines, this kicked ass. I loved it.
Great match. I didn't think the titles were going to change here, but it was an entertaining match that, again, got time because of the nature of the card. And all 4 of them delivered, like, just really, really good stuff.
All right, well, that wraps up the WWE Saturday Night's Main Event Instant Analysis. That brings us to the grading portion of our show. Let's first remember the pre-show expectation grades that we offered. On our Ultimate Preview, Silver King came in with an 87 out of 100 a B+. Chris was very down on this show. 84 out of 100, a B. But to be fair to him, there were only 3 matches scheduled on the card. We had no idea AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura was going to be added. I just happened to think that the matches as they were booked were strong, and I had a feeling that something additional was coming. All of you, our listeners, are getting overheads. You voted on social media. 13.5% in the A range, 71% B+ to B, 13.5% B- to C+, 2% C or lower. That averaged out to an 86.42, a B. So pretty much directly between Silver King and Vintage. Hardly a surprise right there. As always, when we wrap up our premium live events, pay-per-views, specials, whatever the hell you want to call them, and we give our post-show grades, Vintage always has the opportunity to go first. So Chris, what was your final grade for this edition of WWE Saturday Night's Main Event?
Give it a B. A slightly higher B, 86. Good wrestling, which was expected. Just really only one important thing happened, and that was Sammy winning. Like, if you were to tell somebody oh yeah, you got to watch the show because a lot of stuff happened. No. And if I wasn't one, doing the show, and 2, not frozen into my house like everybody else, my first Saturday off of college football, I wouldn't have said oh yeah, got to watch it. Just see who wins the Fatal 4-Way because that's all that matters. And that's really what it was. So not a bad show at all by any means. Just there wasn't a ton of stakes going in, just one thing, and we come out of it generally where we expected.
Yeah, I agree with you from the standpoint of lacking stakes, but you're kind of putting down the opening match, which was immensely important. I mean, that was possible major build to WrestleMania.
The one that was an actual match.
It wasn't an actual match, but it was a lot of fighting and a storytelling segment that built for a main event.
Oh, wait, you're talking about
Jacob and Cody.
Cody Jacob?
Yeah.
Oh, that was totally meaningless.
How is it meaningless if it's building for WrestleMania potentially?
Potentially.
And the WWE champion was involved, and it's the top babyface on the entire roster. And it went 20 minutes into the crowd, and people loved it. How is it meaningless?
Because we knew Jacob and Cody didn't like each other, and we come out of it knowing that they don't like each other.
Yeah, but Drew McIntyre interfered with both of them, and they now have they already had a common enemy, but now is their ire going to get misdirected now? Is it going to be off of each other and now to Drew?
But you're throwing out hypotheticals, nothing.
We're asking questions coming out of a show. That's what we're supposed to do in professional. That's the whole point.
No, but that doesn't mean something happened. It just means it's more likely something else might happen.
I'm not going to argue with you over the semantics of something happening in that match.
No, I am.
It definitely
that's my
something happened.
That's my baseline.
I know. I'm not arguing with you. I'm giving my opinion. I'm just explaining why I disagree with your sentiment. There is what I'm trying to say. Women's match. Not only was it a great match between the 4 of them, but 2 different things developed. The whole deal with the Judgment Day and Rodriguez kind of getting involved in the match. Also, Rodriguez and Vaquer continuing to build the women's tag team division, remaining immensely strong. Obviously, the number 1 contendership. That's what you discussed. We don't have to go over that again. And then AJ Styles, Shinsuke Nakamura put on a borderline A+ match in something that delivered so far beyond expectation, both in terms of them working together and our expectations for the show on Friday, when we taped the preview for it before SmackDown, not even knowing that this was going to happen. So this show, I'm not going to sit here and tell you it blew me away. It wasn't like a A+ or a A show or anything like that. But so many Saturday night's main events have been super disappointing, either due to booking, commercial interruption, whatever the case. But despite there only being 1 title match on the show, this came across to me like a top quarter, as I said earlier, but maybe top 2 or 3 Saturday night's main event since WWE reintroduced the concept. 4 quality segments, a high A to A+ match, a great women's bout, a chaotic opener, and a main event where the fans went home happy. Now, I'm not going to count the John Cena last match show as that was completely different. Other than that
counts. Why does that not count?
What I mean is I'm not going to say this was better than that. Other than that, I don't know an SNME that was clearly better than this. So
the first one, I looked this up. The first one was actually really good.
What was the first one?
It was Cody Kevin Owens main event.
Great.
You also had Chelsea Green win the first U.S. Women's Championship.
Decent.
Being mentioned.
Yeah.
Gunther beat Finn Balor and Damian Priest. Liv Morgan beat
Don't
Io
recall
Sky,
that.
and McIntyre beat Sami Zayn. Like, that is loaded.
That's a load. I don't remember it being great, though. Cody and Kevin, yes. I do remember that 100%. Those
I'm
other
just saying,
matches, I
like,
don't remember being awesome, though.
I'm just saying, like, that's stakes to me. We had a new champion.
Yeah, but are you grading based on the stakes that the show presents or how entertained you were by it?
The quality of the wrestling is not the most important thing to me when I grade a show.
I agree,
Never
but
has
it's
been.
the
People know
entertainment
that.
value is, though. Shouldn't it be?
Yes, but I'm entertained by more than just wrestling. I'm entertained by important things happening.
Yes, but you didn't like
And
the fact that we had a big brawl that was not wrestling on this show.
I just think those two Saturday Night main events, that one, the first one and the Cena one,
Fine.
clearly above. The
I
others,
think we gave that one.
couldn't tell you what happened.
So to your point, I think we gave that one an A
I don't remember. I think I was actually. I don't remember.
or an
how
A
we did
minus.
that.
We were high on it,
Yeah.
but again, I don't think to me that stood out
I was
to a
entertained by.
degree.
Jesse Ventura was on commentary.
Oh
and
yeah,
that was
he was awesome.
I miss him.
That didn't stand out to me as something so memorable that it was like clearly the best. I do remember the KO and Cody main event.
I
that
am
was
really
great.
surprised. Like 3 months from now, 6 months from now, are you really going to remember this show?
No, I haven't even given my grade yet. I'm just telling you that it was way better coming out than it was coming in. Like I came out of this show on Saturday night and go, wow, that was a worthwhile 2 hours. I was super entertained. I was a huge fan of the opener. The AJ Styles and Shinsuke match was legitimately great. The women's match was super, super fun. To tell you the truth, the thing that I liked the least was the main event, which is the thing that mattered the most to you. So we just had entirely different perceptions of this show. You're up 2 points from your original grade. I'm up 3. I said 87 B plus. I'm at a 90 A minus. This was a level show. A minus, obviously the lowest one. But this totally exceeded my expectations. I was way more entertained than I thought I was going to be. And most of the individual moments were better than I expected, with the exception, really, of the main event. Now, our listeners are getting overheads. They have an opportunity to weigh in as well. And here are their grades. 31% said A plus to A. 52% said A minus to B plus. 13% said B to B minus. And 5% say C plus or lower. That averages out to a 90.89. A 91 out of 100. So They're not even higher than you. They're higher than me on this show. So you want to criticize someone for being positive about this, criticize them. Because
I am. You guys have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm telling you, I'm like
changing my grade to an F.
I'm like an 89.7 rounded up to a 90. They're a full 91. And
you and I aren't even that far apart for all the apparent disagreeing we're having.
No, we're not. None of these numbers are that far apart. Of course not. No. But I took more issue with like the concept that because only one thing was a number one contendership, that the show couldn't be good, which is kind of what you were saying.
No, I just say, like, if someone missed the show and you said, like,
okay, good. That's
where is this on the, like, oh yeah, you got to watch it because, like, it's important, or like you got to watch it because the matches are good?
If someone missed the show, honestly, I would say watch the first 3 matches.
See, I would just say, just look up who won the main event.
You wouldn't tell people to watch Styles and Nakamura? You wouldn't say you should go out of your way to watch that match?
If you're someone who loves both of those guys, yes.
If it's a wrestling fan, someone who you know is a wrestling fan. WWE
I'd say
fan.
it was actually really good. Like, yeah, it's good. You could watch it. I wouldn't go out of my way.
I think
to tell
that
people
right
you
there,
have to
I think that right there is the disparity between our opinion.
Yeah.
Is that for me, that match carried and was so freaking good and so meaningful that beyond the show being entertaining, that was particularly awesome. For you, if it didn't have that much meaning to you, then that makes sense. That's it.
It just didn't have the dick kicks that we wanted.
Yeah,
we really
I'm sorry.
wanted to go
I'm
back
sorry
into
Vince
history.
McMahon didn't book this show and give you everything that you wanted from the style.
Do you remember? Not only that, that was like a dick kick era, a low blow era. That was around the same time, I think.
Like if they
not long after that, Undertaker and Brock Lesnar were low blowing the crap out of each other. It was a weird time.
If they did it to get out of the WrestleMania match and then have 2 meaningful matches after, like it still would have been disappointing because it was WrestleMania, but at least it would have led to more. Every match was low blows. The whole feud was low blows. Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles, 2 of the greatest active wrestlers in the world at that time, 2 of the biggest stars to leave New Japan and sign with WWE. You could argue ever the 2 biggest to ever do that. and he had them low blowing each other, including at WrestleMania, in a dream match that they were held after Shinsuke Nakamura won the Royal Rumble. They had Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka both win the Royal Rumble in the same year, which you never would have guessed Vince McMahon would book. But guess what you would have guessed? Them both losing at WrestleMania. Asuka dropping her winning streak to Charlotte Flair for no reason whatsoever when Charlotte didn't need it. And then Nakamura taking low blows from AJ Styles and not winning the WWE Championship. When people sit online, whether it's Twitter or Reddit or anywhere, and they say, man, Paul Levesque is a terrible booker. Vince McMahon was so much better. Play that effing clip that I just said. Find, videos on YouTube about the way they booked Shinsuke Nakamura and Asuka ahead of WrestleMania 34 and going into WrestleMania 34. That's Vince McMahon booking. 2019 is Vince McMahon booking. Okay?
Yes.
You can dislike some decisions that Paul Levesque makes. You can criticize him for things that perhaps may not even be his fault due to injuries, Dwayne Johnson getting involved, whatever the case might be. Paul makes plenty of his own mistakes, don't get me wrong. But you can criticize him. You can say that WWE in 2025 wasn't as good as it was in 24 and 23. Don't you ever suggest that Vince McMahon in the latter part of his life was a better creative lead and booker than Paul Levesque when I'm telling you shit like that happened. 8 years ago, by the way, and it only got worse. Remember dog food Roman Reigns? I don't know why I'm going off on this rant right now.
I don't know why you
freaking
are
late.
either. I'm just letting you go.
Well, it was fun. Okay. And you know what? This was a pretty short show, all things considered. So it was fun. All right, look, let's wrap up this WWE Saturday Night's Main Event instant analysis. We have another one of these coming for you in 7 days' time. It will be your 2026 WWE Royal Rumble instant analysis next Saturday. Same bat channel, different bat time. It will happen earlier in the day, of course, because it is in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Between now and then, on Tuesday, we will have your WWE episode that will also serve as your WWE Royal Rumble Ultimate Preview. And then on Thursday, we will have your NXT and AEW episode. So 2 consecutive 3-episode weeks right here on the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. And before I forget, we will review WWE Unreal Season 2 on that Thursday episode. I am 1 episode in. Vintage is probably deeper than I am, but we will be all caught up by the time Thursday rolls around. On the way out of this episode, allow the Silver King to remind you that here at Getting Over,
It's all about the five.
so head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show. Any questions and comments you sent in about Saturday night's main event, we will get to them this coming Tuesday on the WWE episode. Don't fret. You can also vote in pre and post show polls, as I mentioned, at Getting Overcast on YouTube. When you subscribe, you can listen to the episodes and you can watch full-length video interviews as well. Lastly, please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, exclusive news analysis posts every week. Support us as we continue pumping out performance-enhancing audio for your ear holes. Buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Thanks so much to Vintage Chris Vanini for joining. Thanks to all of you, our Getting Overheads, for hopefully enjoying. This is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.